The moment you start adding control elements to your HMI application, like these pump stats reset buttons, or this trend history dump button, or alarm acknowledgement button, you also start thinking, what if someone else has access to the panel? What if someone starts messing with those buttons? That's where local panel security comes into play. This problem is highlighted even more when it comes to changing operational parameters, like the full scale of the pressure sensors. It gives you flexibility during commissioning, but at the same time, anyone can mess up pump's operation by just changing one parameter. Side note on how these parameters page organize. Since there are too many parameters to fit into one page, I've used Stack Widget, which lets you have multiple layers on the same page. You can find the widget in Layout folder of Basic Group. When you are in Panel Builder, you can scroll between layers by using these left and right buttons, or by changing property Current Index. For the runtime, I've added the horizontal tab widget and linked its index property to the index property of the stack widget. This way, navigation widget gives an operator option to choose the group, and stack widget shows the chosen group. Okay, back to security. Anything related to security settings in Panel Builder is located here in the project tree item called Security. By default, security is enabled, but you can disable it. Inside the security item, we have two sub-items we will be talking about today: user groups and users. As the name suggests, the first one is used to define various groups, and the second one, actual users, which belong to one of those groups. By default, HMI application has one user called admin, which belongs to the group with the same name. Admin is also marked as the default user, which forces panel to log in with this user when it boots up, without even asking any passwords. And because the admin user belongs to the admin group, which has all the possible rights, we haven't really experienced any access problems up to this moment. So, what I'm going to do is to create a default user and make it a member of the guest group. Then I will limit access for members of guest group to stats reset buttons, parameter, history dumping, and alarm acknowledgement operations. To get access to those elements, operator will have to log in with personal account. And I will start by adding operators group, which has access to screen elements mentioned before. We could have used admin group, but it's better to have some distinction between admins who have absolute power and operators who might need to have some limitations. You can set homepage for a group where members will be redirected after logging in, or just use the checkbox last visited page. All the access rules for the given group are stored in the last column, authorization settings. Let's give these rules a proper name and then open them by pressing the small button on the right. It looks intimidating at first, but we'll get there, don't worry. Important thing to understand is that you can define the same rule on different levels. Base settings define permissions on a project level. Here on the right, we have listed all types of widgets available in the project with their permissions. For example, we can limit access to all buttons widgets with an entire HMI project. Or we can change permissions for the specific page, let's say pump info dialog. Or we can go one level deeper and set permissions for the counter one button. Here's a good time to remind you once again how important it is to properly name your widgets. Now, we don't really need to change any access rules for the operators group. For those guys, everything is allowed. But we need to apply some restrictions to guest users. Open guest authorization settings and navigate to Pump Info dialog. Find and select the first reset button and change permissions from Use Base Settings, which forces this button to inherit project-wide settings, to either hide or read only. Both limit access to the given widget, but the first one, as name suggests, hides the button from user interface, while the second one lets the button be displayed in UI but limits any user interactions. For this particular reset button, I would prefer to hide it completely. And then I just repeat the next reset button. There is a way to change the same settings from the page level. Right-click the button widget for which you want to change security rules, go to Security Settings, and select the group you want to change settings for. You will get this same dialog, which works the same way, but this time it's only limited to the specific widget. So, all the access rules are attached to this specific group, but to make those rules work, you need a user, which belongs to that group. On Users tab, add a new user and name it default user. Make the panel use it by default. Assign it to the guest group, set a password. If you feel like typing, add a comment. And then there are a number of security settings available. You can force him to change the password during the first login, auto log out after an activity interval, set password complexity, and so on. If I start the project simulation and open stats window, we can see that reset buttons are no longer visible and we cannot reset counters. That means that permission rules and the default user work just okay. Now we need to finish the job with other widgets we want to limit access to. Find Trend button and change permission to read only for guest users. But here's a small problem. When you limit access by read-only option, from operator perspective, it doesn't look like limited access, but rather like a buggy or non-responsive interface. Here is how zoom button behaves, and here's what happens when I press dump button. So we need a way to tell a user that he doesn't have access to this specific UI element. I think a small lock icon on top of the button will do the job. Now we just need to make it visible only for guest users. Find system variable this client group name, make a formula and compare it against string guest. And the same goes for the alarm acknowledgement button. There is one thing I want to show you about restricting access to acknowledgement action. You can of course go to the button security settings and set everything up the way we did before, or you can go to guest group authorization settings, open action tab, and here in base settings, restrict alarm action for the entire project, regardless of the widget which might trigger this action. It might be useful when one button calls multiple actions and you want to restrict one of them, or if you invoke certain action from JavaScript code. Quick check if it works. Go to History Graph page, and there is a lock icon and I cannot press the button. Alarms page, the same. Good. Now we need to repeat already known procedure for all the widgets on the parameters page. Paste lock icons and change access rules for the guest group. One thing you might spot later if you open the project is that different time variables have different units. Like here, on delay and max running time are in seconds and minutes respectively, even though they are linked to the same time data type in the PLC. If you go to Tags tab and find Pump on Delay tag in the list, in the Properties panel, you can spot Scaling option. Inside, you will find different ways to do basically the same thing. And the thing is, we take a source value, which comes from the PLC, use nominator, denominator, offset, and a little bit of math to get a tag value, which after is displayed on a page, used for animation, or whatever you want to do with it. If you don't have nominator and denominator, you can specify input and output ranges. Time data type is basically a big counter in milliseconds. So if you want to get value in seconds, set source to 0 to 1000 and tag to 0 to 1. Conversion formula will be shown over here. Another example. This time it is a value in minutes. There are 60,000 milliseconds in 1 minute, hence the source maximum value. Another thing which is important to understand is that this conversion works the both ways. If I set the value of 2 minutes on parameters page, value which will be sent to the PLC is going to be 2 times 60,000, 120,000. Now that we have limited the ability to do any harm by guest users, we need a way to log in by an operator user. And as the first step, we need to create a user, which will belong to operators group. Let it be me. Since the login button should be available from any part of the interface, let's open navigation template and make some room to the right of the alarm banner. Add a button and give it an on-click action. Navigate to User Management and select Switch User. Inside the button, there is a multi-state image which indicates whether we have guest or operator privileges. So we need to link it to system variable this client group name compared to group name operators. Let's test it. If I open the stats pop-up, there will be no reset buttons. Check parameters page. Yeah, everything is with a lock icon. That means we have guest privileges now. When I click the button, panel redirects me to the login page. Let me try my username and password. Press sign in, and it seems like it works. Open stats window. Yep, reset buttons are now visible and most importantly, operational. Go to parameters page. All parameters are unlocked and I can enter a new value. Now there are two questions. How can you log out? And is there a way to edit this login page? We'll address the first one in a minute, and the answer to the second one is yes. It's a bit tricky, but hey, that's why I'm here. If you open HMI project in File Explorer, you will see lots of files and subfolders. You might even spot some familiar names, like this feeding subsystem JMX file. And if you feel particularly adventurous today, you may even open it and find out that it's just an XML markup file, which opens so many possibilities. But that's a story for another day. We came here for something else. Project folder contains user management templates folder. Open it and you'll find files with the same extension as feeding subsystem page. The page we came for is named Switch User Login page. Now, don't worry, we're not going to edit XML here. Instead, just grab the file and drag it to the panel builder window. Voila! You can edit this one like any other page. For instance, I don't think this logo belongs here, so I just remove it. I'll spare you from watching me tweaking all the elements on the screen. Here's the final result. I didn't change much, mostly just visual properties of existing elements. Be careful with this back button though, don't delete it. It has this special macro, which you will not find within standard user management actions. The same applies to the login button, so just work with the buttons which are already there. What I've added to the page is this logout button. It's pretty standard and has standard logout action from user management group. Let's give it a final try. Go to login page, type the username and the password. I'm inside, good. I can see reset buttons on the stats page, and I can edit pressure threshold on the parameters page. If I go again to the login page and this time press logout button, all the fields become locked. This is just the bare minimum of user management. You can of course go further and change passwords in runtime by, let's say, admin user, add a new user or reassign him to another group, and so on and so on. I think for this simple project, just hiding sensitive settings behind password is enough. Alright, that's all I got for today. See you guys in the next one.